Hi and welcome to Terry Talks Movies, and this time around, as you can tell from the hat, I've got another haul from Umbrella Entertainment, their September releases. I've got some collector's editions, I've got one with a t-shirt, I've got 2 4Ks, I've got a box set of 3 movies, I've got 1 standalone movie on DVD, and 4 of the movies are from New Zealand, 1's from Canada, and 1's from Australia, and 1's from Japan. I forgot the Japanese one, sorry about that. None of them are from the United States of America, so we probably need to get started. And thank you to Umbrella Entertainment for sending these over. When I mentioned this movie, my friend Graham Watson from over at fictionmachine.com said, "Oh wow, Agitator, it's a Miike, it's good," because he's a big Takashi Miike fan. And Takashi Miike is an interesting director from Japan. He did things like Ichi the Killer. He's a really diverse director too. It's kind of like a director who did both extreme splatter films and a Paddington movie. He's the equivalent of that in Japan. He does kid-friendly movies. He does really wild, outrageous genre films. And he also did some yakuza films in the early 21st century. And this one is a little banger called Agitator, about warring yakuza families in Tokyo around the turn of the 21st century. Fantastic stuff. Miike's stuff is always incredibly professional, incredibly interesting. He's good with character. He's great with action. Just a lot of skill set in one particular director. Now, this one's a limited edition of 750. And there are some special features on the disc. There's the card, which I will try to get into focus here. There we go. This is the extended cut. There are 2 different cuts of this movie. This is the extended cut, which is the one you want. You don't want a cut where they've cut all the good stuff out. Audio commentary is writer and critic Tom Mez, and an essay called The Real Agitator, Robert Edwards on Takashi Miike, and a trailer. So you get all of that in there, which is all on the card. In the hard box, we've got that as the front image. Very cool. I'm going to have to put my finger over that. It's a quote that says, "Thank you and F you, brother." I'm not sure what the sentiment relates to, but it does seem heartfelt. Inside, we've got the slipcase with that artwork, which I really like. That's a beautifully done piece of movie art. And on the back, we've got a couple of the made men in an onsen. On the disc itself, we've got some very simple artwork that just lands it. And on the back, you have that. Now, Takashi Miike movies don't get a lot of releases here in Australia. It's a bit of a shame. I mean, I know Arrow have released a whole bunch, and I know that Ichi the Killer got a release on DVD back in the day. But as a general rule, Takashi Miike movies don't get a lot of releases here in Australia. And it's good to see Umbrella doing this one. We have the usual reversible cover with the Australian censorship classification. This one says R rating, high impact, and sexual violence. There's the inside there. And as you might suspect, we get a poster. Double-sided with artwork you've already seen there. We get that beautiful artwork there. And we get that one, which you just saw what I've had my finger over. But I'm not censoring that one out. And I'm not saying what it says. But there's more. There's art cards in a book as well, which is very, very cool. By the way, the custom artwork is by Colin Murdoch. We've got to give a shout out to the artist. Inside, we get this wonderful booklet, which has got, that's great artwork. I love that. Nothing really on the back. And inside, we've got Mark Schilling on Agitator. Andy Allard on Agitator as well. If you dive down the rabbit hole of Japanese yakuza movies, you're going to be in for a long and very interesting ride. They're just, at what they do, they are fantastic. And there's also different poster art there as well. Now, I'm going to have to check the cards because I want to make sure there's nothing that Auntie YouTube's not going to go mad at me about. Very cool. 2 guns at once, always a nice thing. Day drinking in the limousine. Doesn't get more stylish than that. There's the sports car, or the muscle car almost, isn't it? Bit of Rafifi there. There's something about this that disturbs me greatly. And the birthday party, but I suggest that it may not be ending well. And the protagonist of the film. Now, in a Yakuza movie, it's always difficult to know whether there is actually a protagonist or not, or whether there's just 2 antagonists or 2 groups of antagonists. It's a little bit moot as to whether there's a protagonist in a Yakuza movie. There's the first movie, Agitator. I'm looking forward to that one. Almost looks like a boy band there on the front, but a very, very nasty boy band. Umbrella also has a real history of supporting small Australian films. And this one's a small Australian film. The post-production period for this, I'm told, is about 9 years, where the people making the movie had to raise the funds to do the special effects on it. And it's a very small movie starring Ashley Lolbag, Hugo Parker, and Pacharan Mazembe. Space Time. Now, I did check the Umbrella website just before I recorded, and this one's sold out. But I'm sure it's going to turn up at some stage on a streaming service. May well turn up on Broly if it isn't there already, which is Umbrella's streaming service, which is available in Australia. Now, I watched this one yesterday, and it's a small budget, really compact science fiction movie. The blurb from the Umbrella website says, in the near future, a group of scientists are preparing for the first test of a groundbreaking engine designed to bend space itself and make intergalactic travel not only possible, but instantaneous. It doesn't work out like that. The first time they try it, there's a glitch and people die. 3 years later, the chief scientist comes back to one of the other scientists, played by Ashley Lolbag, and says he's ready to try again and he's fixed the problems that were there with the first experiment. And so the second experiment rolls around, and the female character played by Ashley Lolbag finds out that this guy's cutting corners and he's doing some business with some very dodgy people. What they've discovered is not an interstellar drive, but a time machine. High concept for a very small movie. And the special effects are very kind of carefully chosen and tell the story pretty well. It's not a bad little science fiction movie, and I was a bit surprised about how much I liked it and how ambitious it was. And I'm always a big fan of movies that are incredibly ambitious. If I see a small movie that's ambitious and tries something really outside the box and really much larger than the budget and the resources the filmmakers have, I really like it. I mean, I'm well disposed towards it. And even if it doesn't succeed on all points, in this one, there are a couple of the actors who aren't particularly gifted or at this stage of their careers. But it's still an honest little science fiction movie, and it's nice to check out Australian science fiction movies for me, because there aren't a hell of a lot of them yet. But we do seem to slowly be getting more and more of them. So Space Time is one. Keep it on your list and just see if you can find it around, because it will turn up somewhere. And it's worth checking out if it does. Next up, we've got a box set. Volume 1, Kiwi Kult, In the Dark. A box set of 3 horror movies from Aotearoa, New Zealand, to those of you who don't speak Māori. 3 movies from the 21st century. One by a director who has one of the 4K movies in this month's releases. And the other 2 are by a New Zealand director called Glenn Standring, who made the 2 overtly horror movies in this box set. The third one is a kind of science fiction movie based on a novel by a New Zealand genre author called Morris G. Now, this is a limited edition of 1000. There is the card on the back, and there are lots of special features on the back there. I'll tell you the movies first, then I'll read out the extras. That's probably the way to do it. The first one is from, I think, 2001, from 2000. Very early movie starring Carl Urban, The Irrefutable Truth About Demons. Now, my theory is that demons are real estate agents, but that's just me. There it is there with Carl Urban on the cover, very young Carl Urban, much before The Boys and the other things he's done, including the Kelvin Star Trek series. By the way, the custom artwork is by AWW creator, anthropology professor Harry Ballard, played by Carl Urban. Specializes in debunking occult phenomena. His life takes a dark turn when he receives a disturbing videotape featuring a cult known as the Black Lodge, which claims to reveal a demonic conspiracy. This discovery leads Harry to investigate further, uncovering unsettling truths that challenge his understanding of reality. Very cool there. I hear a lot about this film from other people, and it's a well-respected cult film from New Zealand. Every now and then I'll read something where somebody's mentioned it or name-checked it when they're talking about another film. So it is a little bit influential, so I'm looking forward to seeing that one. The second film I've actually seen way back. It's an alternate universe steampunk movie set in New Zealand, in a world where vampires exist and are out in the open and are seen as a benefit to society and not a threat to society. And it's a movie called Perfect Creature, which has Dougray Scott and Saffron Burrows in it. Filmed around Dunedin, mostly in New Zealand on the South Island. So yeah, it's a steampunk vampire movie in an alternate universe. You don't get many of them. You don't get many alternate universe New Zealand movies coming together. Or for that matter in Australia either. And there are some interesting diversions, which Australia and New Zealand might have been part of in alternate universes, but it never gets to be made into a movie. The third one's the one based on a story by Morris G. about two twins who are psychically together and who see a very extraordinary man when they're wandering around the new place where they live near a volcanic lake in New Zealand. And it's a movie called Under the Mountain starring Sam Neill. Don't know anything about this, but it's kind of science fiction mixed with fantasy, not urban realism, but not urban fantasy, but rural fantasy in a sense. Set in New Zealand and based on a novel by Morris G., a New Zealand author. This one has special features, an interview with director Jonathan King, who is the director of the other New Zealand movie I've got in the 4K box set, by the way. Audio commentary with director Jonathan King and writer-producer Matt Granger. Making of Under the Mountain featurette, stills gallery, behind the scenes gallery, concept art gallery, and a trailer. And this one has some special effects by Weta Workshop in New Zealand, who are the goats when it comes to practical and also digital special effects. Let's see what the Irrefutable Truth About Demons has as extras. This one's got audio commentary with director Glenn Standring, archival audio commentary with director Glenn Standring, interview with director Glenn Standring, interview with the producer Dave Gibson, the making of featurette, deleted scenes, archival cast and director interviews, archival interview with the director, stills gallery and trailer. And for Perfect Creature, we have audio commentary with director Glenn Standring, interview with the director, remapping New Zealand with genre, Anton Battelle on the Irrefutable Truth About Demons and Perfect Creature, which is on this disc. The Making of Perfect Creature, Nouveau Zealandia World and Story featurette, which is about the alternate universe. The Perfect Team cast and crew featurette, stills gallery, concept design gallery, and a trailer. So, Kiwi Kult Volume 1, and I'll be interested to see what's on Volume 2, is packed with information about these films. And they're featuring films that really don't get a lot of oxygen in the world and in international film viewing circles, which I think is one of the reasons why Umbrella puts these movies out. We've also got a booklet, and I've almost forgotten the booklet, but I haven't quite. Kiwi Kult Volume 1, In the Dark, Behind the Scenes Experiences and Art. See? We've got about the production of Under the Mountain. There is an essay there with there's Sam Neill, who Australia's kind of adopted him as being in like an Australian cousin. Under the Mountain, interview with Oliver Driver and Stephen Boyle, first appearance on flicks.co.nz in 2008, so that's like an archival essay. May the Wilberforce be with you, Under the Mountain film review by Russell Bailey, interview with Glenn Standring, an essay about the irrefutable truth about demons called Let It Bleed by Philip Matthews. There is some concept art for Perfect Creature. So a lot of extra information there. New Zealand, Aotearoa, really does punch above its weight when it comes to filmmaking, not just because of Peter Jackson. But I'm glad that's come out. And again, thanks to Umbrella for sending it over. New Zealand does do a lot of interesting films. Umbrella Entertainment, also now known as Umbrella, occasionally do cute releases on their collector's editions. And this is another one. They did one for Sasquatch Sunset, which was all furry on the hard case, and it had something very much like Sasquatch fur on it. This New Zealand horror film, directed by Jonathan King, they've gone the same way kind of with this one. The movie is Black Sheep, and the hard case feels a little bit, but not really, like sheep fleece. And I'll show you the back as well. I'll take the card off the back. There's a good little blood spatter there, so there's a lot of quality there. And yeah, that's the hard case for Black Sheep. I know there has been a previous physical media release of this, but this is the definitive edition. Let's have a look here. Limited edition of 1500, and this is $4.69 of 1500. Lots and lots of special features, and I'll read them out to you. They're all on this card. Audio commentary with writer-director Jonathan King and actor Nathan Meister. Audio commentary with critics Matt Donato and Rob Hunter. Interview with the director. From Bad Taste to Black Sheep, mapping the gory history of New Zealand's splatstick with Dr. Alfio Leota. Genetic experiments gone wrong in film with David Michael Brown. Jonathan King interviewed by the Bazura Project in 2007. The Making of Black Sheep featurette, 5 deleted scenes with optional commentary by the director and Nathan Meister. A unique transformation makeup tests. Blooper reel, cast and crew interviews, B-roll and trailer. And Black Sheep, which is about genetically mutated sheep, which go rogue and start killing everybody. The special effects were done by Weta Workshop, and Weta Workshop had to make practical killer sheep and match them up perfectly with the sheep that they used as sort of four-legged ovine extras. And the slipcover has some great artwork. I'm going to find out who did the artwork on this slipcover because it's a real banger. It doesn't say here, which is a bit of a shame because when you see it, you'll know why I want to name check the artist. Check out that artwork. I love that. There's more of it on the back. And the disc itself on 4K and Blu-ray, so you get 2 discs. There it is there. What's the censorship classification say? MA 15 plus. Strong horror, violence, blood and gore. That's a Saturday night in St Kilda. But there it is there, giving you the gist of the film really. Inside, you get the 4K upside down, the special edition 4K upside down, and the Blu-ray right side up. And we've got a double-sided poster, of course. That sheep was looking terrifically majestic. And there is one of the Weta Workshop artificial sheep. This is not a serious movie, by the way. It's not a serious horror film. It's a horror comedy. In case you hadn't figured it out yet. We do have art cards. No sheep were hurt in the making of this film, by the way. Those people are not well. I've been in this situation up in the I think I was in the snowy mountains with tons of sheep surrounding a car. This, I believe, is a real sheep and a real actor. And you always have to have an ingenue couple who are terrified by the monsters and who usually live after the kerfuffle. There's the one for this movie. Not a happy sheep. And the afterglow. But there's more. There is a hard book. Black Sheep behind the scenes experiences and art. There are a lot of essays and other bits and pieces in there. So you can freeze frame there to find out what they are. Including Weta Workshop's stills of the sheep they made. Apparently making artificial sheep, it's not always easy. Great makeup effects. But there's one other thing as well. And I'll get everything else out of the way while I get that. There's that cover again. It's a t-shirt by Hollow Bones, who make good t-shirts because they've done some of the other ones for Umbrella Entertainment. So you got that on the front. Hang on, let me get it in view. Sheer Terror. Black Sheep. Now let me straighten it out a bit. And on the back, we've got alternative artwork. There are 40 million sheep in New Zealand and they're pissed off. On the back of the t-shirt. It's a 3XL in case you were wondering. It's interesting and it's great that a cult film like Black Sheep gets a 4K release here in Australia. And of course, internationally, it is available. The collector's editions are only available through the Umbrella website. And I don't know how Umbrella is solving the problem of Australia Post is not sending parcels to the USA right now because of all that tariff rubbish that's happening, that's affecting literally thousands of businesses in Australia, in New Zealand, and many, many other countries. They're still working that out. But if you can get a copy of this one from the Umbrella website and support small businesses that are not in the USA, and Umbrella, even though it does punch highly above its weight, is not an enormous business. But it'll be interesting in a bad way to see what happens with tariffs affecting imports to the United States of releases like these. I don't know what's happening with that. I'm sure there are people burning in the midnight oil at Umbrella and also a number of other companies that don't work out of the USA at the moment, just to see how they can work around the fact that Australia Post just doesn't know how to handle the way they're doing the tariffs in the United States. So let's move on to Canada, one of the friendly countries in North America, and a movie that I've already got on DVD because I've got my finger on the pulse of particularly science fiction, and one of the directors I really like and whose work I really, really respect is Vincenzo Natali. This is one of my favorite ones because ultimately it's a cyberpunk movie about corporate espionage and brainwashing and trying to control the world through various corporations fighting against each other surreptitiously. But that's not what the story's really about. The story's about something else that we find out about right at the very end. This one is a hidden gem for me. And I am incredibly pleased that it's got a 4K release. With all due respect, it deserves one a lot more than many, many other films. It's Cypher. And this is the hard box, of course. Stars Jeremy Northam and Lucy Liu. Jeremy Northam's the character on the front artwork there. Lucy Liu on the back. A really interesting little film from 2002. The film follows an accountant whose sudden career as a corporate spy takes an unexpected turn when he meets a mysterious woman played by Lucy Liu, uncovering secrets about the nature of his work and the nature of himself. Jeremy Northam plays Morgan Sullivan, who gets another identity in the industrial espionage under the name of Jack Thursby. Good supporting cast in this as well. We've got some well-known Canadian genre actors in there. Nigel Bennett and David Hewlett are in there. I don't want to talk too much about the movie itself because I think you've got to let it roll over you. And you've got to just go, what the hell's happening? And follow the twists and turns and the brainwashing that these warring corporations are doing on basically the foot soldiers that they have as employees for the companies. It's a very well-made movie. I like this one so much. I've seen it, I think, 3 times, and I've enjoyed it each time. We've got art cards. There is an art card for it. And Jeremy Northam does very well in this one. And Lucy Liu is very, very good in this one too. There's Jeremy Northam. There he is getting some instructions on what to do when he goes to trade conventions, because he's at the surface level, his job is to secretly record all the talks at these trade conventions. But there's more going on at these trade conventions than he knows until things happen. There's part of the very stylized direction and art design for Thor. There's some of the characters. Lucy Liu and Jeremy Northam. I have a nice rapport in this movie too. The kind of meet cute between them works. Lucy Liu and Jeremy Northam having his brain rinsed and dried. So this one is a limited edition of 1500. We've also got a booklet there. And on the back, you're not Morgan Sullivan, you're Jack Thursby. You're not married to Amy Sullivan. Your wife is Diane Thursby. San Jose, California is not your home. You live in Redmond, Washington. And you got the ones and zeros motif there as well, which is very 2002 really, isn't it? In here you've got The Visions of Vincenzo Natali, From Cube to In the Tall Grass by David Michael Brown, covering the career of Vincenzo Natali up to this point. Memories of the Future, an excerpt from Henry M. Taylor's essay, Memories of the Future, Vincenzo Natali's Cypher, and Return of the Cartesian Subject. Another essay. Yeah, this one's got a nice twist in it at the end. There's another essay, I'm Not Your Spy Girl, The Femme Fatale in Cypher by Sheila Rowan Legg, which is kind of interesting. The character played by Lucy Liu is not your usual femme fatale. There's also a concept art in the booklet as well. Now, on the slipcover, you've got that art and that art, which works so well. And it's of its time almost. It's very 2002 cover art. It doesn't try to update it to the third decade of the 21st century. It lets it be where it is. Here's the 4K and Blu-ray. There you go. What's the censorship classification says? M, low-level violence and low-level coarse language. I usually like my coarse language a much higher level than it. 4K Blu-ray. And we get the reversible poster, which is artwork where I've just shown you. There's one side of it. And there's the other. Very nice artwork. Okay, who did the artwork? Let me just bring up my many, many tabs. Custom artwork on rigid and slipcases by Ben Turner. So all credit to Ben Turner. There is some really great artwork there. I'm just going to slip that poster back in. But Cypher, I think, is an underrated movie. I mean, I saw Cube and I knew about Vincenzo Natali's work. And then I think I picked up my copy of Cypher on DVD secondhand. I was blown away by it. I think it's an incredibly underrated piece of science fiction. In a time when we're starting to question the power of corporations and very, very, very wealthy people, I think it's time to reevaluate and revisit Cypher and to just see how prophetic it was in some ways and how finger on the pulse it is in other ways. Really incredible little movie. And I'm just so glad that Umbrella have picked it up and dusted it off and renovated it to give us this complete edition of it. Special features, there's a lot of them. So there are more than a lot of them here. So I will put that up as close as I can get, and you can take a look at them for yourself. Lot of extras here. So that's what I got for you this time around. A ton of stuff from Umbrella Entertainment. We've got Agitator, Takashi Miike Yakuza movie. We've got Space Time, a small budget Australian science fiction movie, which is punching for up here and doesn't quite succeed, but it does pretty damn close. We've got the Kiwi Cult box set with 3 movies from the early years of the 21st century. And we've got Black Sheep and Cypher. all great movies that may well have not been on anybody's radar. And yet Umbrella have brought them out and given them the respect I reckon they deserve, because these are the kind of movies I like a lot more than a lot of the big tentpole movies that cost $200 million. These movies have a handcrafted quality that big corporate movies just simply don't have anymore. Next up on Science Fiction Saturday, I'm doing an Australian science fiction movie that's only just come out and plays in the same waiting pool as a much bigger movie that came out a couple of months ago. And for my money, it does it a lot better. So I'm going to be talking about that on Saturday. Then on Monday, I've got a live stream at 7 a.m. Monday morning Australian time. I don't know what time that is where you live. I don't know where you live specifically. I've got a lot of good stuff for that. Oh, by the way, if you want to support the channel, and if you like the video, or even if you didn't like the video, you can subscribe, you can give it a thumbs up, you can leave a comment, you can hit the notification bell, you can support the channel by becoming a channel member or by becoming a patron at patreon.com/terrytalksmovies. Until next time, when I'm going to be looking at an Australian movie with dinosaurs in it. Watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Watch Cypher, I love this film. And I'll catch you next time.